All right, so let's dive right into this because today is a pretty big day if you're following what's happening in Tamil Nadu politics.
Definitely a lot going on.
Yeah, so today, April 11th, 2025, in Chennai, Union Home Minister Amit Shah just made a huge announcement. And yeah, it's pretty major. The BJP and the AIADMK are officially back together as an alliance, and they've got their eyes set on the 2026 Assembly elections.
This is way more than just some local political maneuvering. This has the potential to completely change the political landscape of the entire state.
I totally agree. And the players leading this charge are some pretty familiar faces. We've got Edappadi K, Palaniswami, EPS, as the AIADMK's chief ministerial candidate. And then kind of looming in the background nationally, you've got Prime Minister Modi's influence.
Ah.
And their main target, well, that's Chief Minister MK Stalin and his DMK party, who are currently in power. So consider this deep dive like your all-access pass to understanding this whole political drama that's unfolding. We're going to break down why this is happening now, the sometimes rocky history between these two parties, who the major players are, and of course, what this all means for the future of Tamil Nadu.
I think a great place to start would be to kind of set the scene a little bit.
Yeah.
Why now? Why did these two parties decide to join forces at this particular moment?
Yeah, good point. The announcement itself was pretty interesting to watch Shah and EPS standing together at that press conference in Chennai. I mean, visually, that image sends a pretty powerful message. It really projects an image of unity and solidarity.
You can't underestimate the optics of it.
Right. And Shah definitely didn't hold back. He was very optimistic about the NDA's chances of actually forming a government in Tamil Nadu in 2026. He even used the term tsunami victory.
Which is interesting, coming from someone like Shah, a national figure with a lot of weight behind his words. I think it really highlights how determined the BJP is to finally establish a strong presence in Tamil Nadu. But we also have to keep in mind that Tamil Nadu's political landscape is notoriously complex. It's deeply rooted in regional identities and alliances. There tend to be very fluid shifting and changing with the political winds.
Yeah, that's a good point. So while Shah might be confident about this tsunami victory, there are definitely going to be some strong currents to navigate.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings us to their past. The BJP and the AIADMK, they've definitely been down this road before. This isn't their first alliance rodeo.
Definitely not. To really understand what might happen with this renewed partnership, I think it's really crucial to understand their past collaborations and, more importantly, why they ultimately went their separate ways.
Okay, so let's rewind back to 1998. That was kind of their golden age as an alliance. Under the leadership of their really formidable J.J. Olitha, they absolutely dominated the political scene. They won 30 out of the 39 Lok Sabha seats in Tamil Nadu.
Wow.
That's a huge number.
Right.
And it really showed how powerful they could be when they combined forces.
I mean, that 1998 victory, it really highlights the potential of this kind of partnership.
Yeah.
You've got a strong regional force, especially one led by a charismatic leader like Jayalalitha, and they joined forces with a national party with its own strengths. It was a perfect storm.
It was, but like we see a lot in politics, that unity, it didn't last. By 1999, the AIADMK pulled out of the alliance, which actually created some major problems for the BJP-led national government at the time.
Oh, wow.
And then they tried again in the 2004 Lok Sabha elections, but that was a complete flop. The AIADMK only won one seat, and the BJP, they got absolutely nothing.
Oof.
So it just goes to show that you can't always rely on past successes in politics.
Yeah, political climates change, leadership changes, the issues that are important to voters change. There's so many factors at play.
Right.
And they can really make or break an alliance.
Okay, so let's fast forward to more recent times after Jayalalitha's passing. The AIADMK, with EPS at the helm, aligned with the BJP for the 2021 Tamil Nadu Assembly elections. They managed to win 75 seats, which isn't bad, but it wasn't enough to beat the DMK.
Right.
And then just a couple years later in 2023, they split up again. And a lot of the blame for that split seemed to fall on the then BJP state chief, K. Annamalai. Apparently his kind of aggressive style and some of the things he said publicly didn't really sit well with the AIADMK's leadership.
Yeah, it seemed like the two just weren't seeing eye to eye.
Yeah. So the big question is, what's changed now? Why are they getting back together? Well, for one thing, Annamalai isn't leading the BJP in Tamil Nadu anymore. So maybe that created some space for them to reconcile. And it's interesting that Shah himself described this alliance as organic and built on mutual respect. So it sounds like they're really trying to present a more stable and unified front this time around.
I think they've learned from their past mistakes.
I think so too. So let's talk about what's at stake here. I mean, the main goal of this alliance is pretty clear. They want to challenge the DMK, who have been in power since 2021. And they're coming off a huge win in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, where they won all 39 seats in Tamil Nadu.
Yeah, that's a pretty dominant position to be in.
It is. And Amit Shah, he didn't hold back in his criticism of the DMK. He accused them of being corrupt and said that they're using divisive issues like the Sanatan Dharma debate and the three-language policy to distract from their failures in governing.
It's a classic strategy, you know, targeting your opponents by accusing them of corruption and trying to appeal to voters' sense of identity.
Exactly. And on the AIADMK side, you've got EPS, who, as leader of the opposition, has also been very critical of the DMK government. He's constantly pointing out what he sees as their shortcomings and broken promises. So you've got this two-pronged attack coming from both the BJP at the national level and the AIADMK at the state level. But the big question is, will it be enough to actually shake the DMK's hold on power?
I think that's what everyone's going to be watching. How effective will their campaign be? Will they be able to convince voters that they're a better alternative?
Right. So let's take a closer look at EPS. He's the current General Secretary of the AIADMK, and he was Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu from 2017 to 2021. He's a powerful figure in his own right, especially in the Congo region, and he's got a lot of support in Western Tamil Nadu.
Yeah, he's definitely not someone to underestimate. He brings a lot of experience to the table, and he's got a strong base.
And it's important to point out that Shah explicitly said that EPS will be the NDA's chief ministerial candidate for the 2026 elections. That's a very clear signal that they're putting their weight behind him. It's a big morale booster for the AIADMK.
It's a smart move by the BJP. They're acknowledging the AIADMK's strong organization and established presence in the state. I think it shows that they're willing to let the AIADMK take the lead at the state level, while the BJP provides support from the national level.
Now, we can't talk about the AIADMK without addressing their internal dynamics. I mean, things have been pretty rocky for them since Jayalalitha died. There's been power struggles and factions. It hasn't exactly been smooth sailing.
Yeah, you're right. The AIADMK has definitely had its share of internal challenges. And this alliance with the BJP could be seen as a way for them to try to present a more united front and strengthen their position against the DMK.
Yeah, that makes sense. So during the press conference, of course, the question came up about what I'm going to call the uninvited guests, OPS and TTV Dhinakaran. For those who might not know OPS, or O, Paneerselvam was a longtime supporter of Jayalalitha, but he was later expelled from the AIADMK after a very public feud with EPS. And then you've got TTV Dhinakaran, who leads his own party, the AMMK, which has also been a problem for the AIADMK. Both of them have had some dealings with the BJP in the past, so the question was, will they be part of this new alliance?
It's a tricky situation. You know, including them might broaden the coalition's reach, but it could also create a lot of tension and make things even more complicated when it comes to things like deciding who gets to run in which constituency.
Exactly. And when they asked Amit Shah about it, he basically dodged the question. He said that it's an internal matter for the AIADMK to decide.
I mean, that's a smart move on his part. You know, it allows the BJP to stay out of the AIADMK's internal drama. They don't want to get caught in the middle of those disputes.
And strategically, it's probably the best approach. Their main priority right now is to show that they're united and focused on defeating the DMK. Bringing in people who could cause problems would undermine that whole message.
Definitely unity is key if they want to be successful.
All right, so let's switch gears for a minute and talk about what this alliance means for the BJP. Historically, Tamil Nadu has been a really tough nut for them to crack. Their presence in the state has always been pretty limited compared to the dominance of the Dravidian parties.
It's a state where national parties have always struggled to gain a foothold.
Right, but they did see a significant increase in their vote share in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. They got over 11% of the vote, even though they didn't actually win any seats. So it shows that their support is slowly but surely growing.
Yeah, that increase in vote share is a good sign for them. And I think this alliance with the AIADMK gives them a real opportunity to turn that support into actual wins.
That's exactly why this alliance is so important for them. It gives them access to a much larger voter base, especially in the rural areas where the AIADMK's two-leaf symbol is so well known.
It's that instant recognition that the BJP is hoping to tap into.
Exactly. They're also hoping that their national narrative, the focus on Modi's leadership, economic development, and appeals to broader cultural themes will resonate with Tamil Nadu voters. And Shah specifically mentioned things like NEET and delimitation as issues that they plan to discuss with the AIADMK. Those are sensitive topics in Tamil Nadu.
They're definitely wading into some potentially controversial waters there.
Yeah, they'll have to tread carefully. It's also worth noting that the new BJP state president, Nainar Nagendran, actually has ties to the AIADMK. So that existing connection could help to smooth things over and make the relationship between the two parties a little bit easier.
Having someone who understands both sides at the helm could definitely be beneficial.
And of course, we can't ignore the fact that K. Animalai's exit as state president probably made this alliance a lot more likely. His confrontational style was a real sticking point for the AIADMK.
It seemed like his presence was just creating too much friction.
Right. Okay, so now let's flip it around and look at this from the AIADMK's perspective.
Yeah.
They've had a rough couple of years, losing the 2021 Assembly elections and then getting completely shut out in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. They're definitely feeling the pressure to turn things around.
I'm sure they are. And this alliance with the BJP gives them a chance to do just that.
By joining forces with the BJP, they gain access to all those national resources and a much stronger campaign infrastructure. And that's huge in a state like Tamil Nadu, where elections are massive undertakings.
Yeah, the BJP's resources and campaign experience could really give the AIADMK a boost.
It's also possible that this alliance could help the AIADMK expand their support beyond their traditional Dravidian base. Maybe they can attract some voters who are looking for something different or who want to be more connected to national politics.
It's a gamble, but it could pay off.
But like we talked about earlier, there are probably some AIADMK loyalists who aren't too happy about this alliance with the BJP.
Yeah.
They see the BJP as having very different views on a lot of issues. So EPS is going to have to work hard to convince them that this is the right move.
He's got to present it as a strategic necessity.
Yeah.
We have to do this to beat the DMK.
Exactly. So looking ahead to the 2026 elections, we can expect some pretty intense negotiations between the BJP and the AIADMK about who gets to run in which constituency. The BJP is going to want more seats this time around, given their increased vote share in the last election, and that could cause some friction.
Yeah, seat-sharing agreements are always tricky. Everyone wants to make sure they get their fair share.
Right. And we can also start to imagine what the campaigns are going to look like. The BJP-AIADMK alliance will probably focus on attacking the DMK, accusing them of being corrupt and pointing out their failures.
Which we've already seen Shah starting to do.
Right. And the DMK, on the other hand, they'll probably emphasize their social justice policies and their welfare programs. And they'll try to paint the BJP as an outsider party that doesn't understand Tamil Nadu.
It'll be interesting to see how those narratives play out and which ones resonate with voters.
We also can't forget about the other players in the game, like actor Vijay's new party, the TVK. They're a bit of a wild card right now, but they could definitely shake things up, especially if they manage to pull in a lot of young voters.
And there are other smaller parties that could play a role as well.
Right. And then, of course, there's the big question mark hanging over OPS and TTV Dhinakaran. If they decide to run independently, could they end up splitting the vote and helping the DMK win?
It's definitely a possibility.
So this announcement of the BJP-AIADMK alliance, it really feels like a major turning point in Tamil Nadu politics. It's going to be a really exciting and unpredictable election in 2026.
I think it's safe to say that all eyes will be on Tamil Nadu.
Absolutely. So what are your thoughts? What does this alliance tell you about the future of politics in India, both at the regional and national level?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think it shows that the BJP is really serious about expanding their influence in the South. And it also highlights the importance of regional parties in Indian politics.
Yeah, I agree. What about you as a listener? What are you most curious about as we get closer to the 2026 election? What stood out to you in our conversation today?
I think we've only just scratched the surface of this really fascinating and potentially game-changing moment in Tamil Nadu's political history.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling there are going to be a lot more surprises along the way.
There's never a dull moment in Tamil Nadu politics, that's for sure.
Definitely not. Well, thanks for joining me today for this deep dive. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all unfolds.
It has been a pleasure, as always.
And to all our listeners out there, keep an eye on Tamil Nadu because things are about to get very interesting.